1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let's check how the audio's going today. All clear? All clear? Okay. One out, one in. Where are we? There we go. There we go. Right, let me just adjust the yeah, okay. We're not going to be here for too long. Right. Okay, let me just... Good evening. This is a little quicker than usual, but I thought we had to cut the stream short on Sunday because I was releasing the video and I wanted to get out. So I've been wrestling with myself if I could be bothered to stream today because I want to release a quick update video. So I'm going to do the stream beforehand and then I'll just release the update video afterwards. I don't think it merits itself enough to premiere it. I think that's a little too fancy for what is effectively like a 7-minute update. With some flowery language, I guess, but like I can give a couple little bits and pieces of why I'm doing the update here, because I'll say this stuff in stream, but like obviously the streams are temporary, and only a certain amount of people will show up to them, which is fine. That's just how it works, right? So like the idea for me would be the video itself is supposed to be more for the subscribers to kind of give an update about why the channel's going where it is, and you know, because we've done maybe what 6 videos this year. Usually I do a lot more. Even though, like, technically, you know, it's full time now, but yeah, things have changed a bit, so I want to update them. And you know, every time I do a stream, everyone asks me what's going on with the wrist there, so it's probably good to have like a video that kind of like brings it up. I mean, to be fair, like the wrist, so yeah. So those who don't know, I injured the wrist probably last year in August, so it's been over a year now. God, it's actually October, isn't it? Fucking hell. Oof, we've passed that. All right, yeah. It's been slow. There's been some slow recovery of late. Like I've noticed some improvements, but you know, it's still not ideal, not great really. You know, I'm still wearing this all day and at night, especially at night. That's the best time to wear it. But yeah, it is in a better place than it has been in the past. But yeah, the video is kind of going to go through that and some other health concerns of mine, and like what kind of videos we plan to make in the future and what we're doing with more, I guess, larger but slower output, pretty much. Let me just check on the chat right now. Okay, let's see. Okay, audio good. Yeah, audio still good. How's it going, everyone? How's it going, Derby Daily? And Study of Swords, and Psychic Tiger, and all the other... We got some fun names in the chat, I've got to say that much. Fun names. Yeah, good evening, good evening. OBS is OBS, I guess it's better than nothing. Yeah, well, within the... how's it going, Daniel? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so I'm gonna release like I said, small update video after the stream. But like, if you've got any questions, you can ask them now, I guess. Would probably be the way I look at it. But yeah, like I'll probably the update video will be a more condensed version of what I'm saying here. Maybe a couple other caveat points. But yeah, you know, just like I'll be talking about like health concerns a little bit. Because yeah, the wrist has not been ideal, especially for like animation. I mean, I think the animation did it to it, which is why, you know, I have different ways of doing stuff now. Yeah, it's about conservation a lot of times, you know, trying to save my wrist. But recently I have bought some newer equipment for animation. I bought an update to Clip Studio Paint. There might also be more sponsors coming to videos in the future. But the prior video, so we did Norska. I've pinned that right now, so if anyone hasn't seen it, yeah. Norska video came out a couple days ago. It's been doing pretty well for what it is. I'm a little anxious about it in some ways, because obviously there's like 2 worries for me for the Norska video. Obviously it took a long time to get made and get everything together. Maybe a little longer than I would have hoped, but you know, I think I'm happy with how the video turned out for the most part. But yeah, the concerns I would have is just that, like, if it will just drop off instantly. Because if it has a slow burn and just continues at the rate it's doing, it will be fine. I'm worried that it will just suddenly like flatline for whatever reason, which that's the YouTube way sometimes. That would be a slight concern to me. And the other one is that Ghibli is going to come and strike it, which is probably going to happen eventually, especially if it keeps up its momentum. But I'd like it not to happen in its best period, which will probably be its first month usually. Like I'd like it to stay clear for that period of time, if it can be helped. Rosa, how do I say that? Tomas? Yeah, appreciate it. Hello, Mr. Brooks. Oh, by the way, Mr. Brooks, I watched your film. I watched it. I finished it earlier today. It came in the mail. I finally had a little bit of time. What was it? What's it called? God, I can't remember the name. Is it Irvin and I? Irwin and I? What's the name of it? I can't remember the name. I did watch it. I swear, I did watch it. The mug just has some tea in it. It's fine. It's just to keep my throat going. Am I planning to do another big video project late 2021? Right. Well, in the video I say the next big project I want to do is Arno, which will probably come out next year because I want to still do because again we've had so few videos come out this year. I would really like to keep up the monthly, like the December month anime studio thing, but I want to try something slightly different with it. Which I'll say in the video, but I want to do Studio 4C, which is roughly maybe 15 videos, I'd say. I think it's 15, or it depends how I split them, and what becomes a video and what doesn't. But yeah, I'll do something else with it at the end to turn it into a more of a bigger project. But I'd like to start doing that now, so I don't rush myself to death in December. But yeah, just doing the work for it now for the next little while, so it's all ready for December. I can just have all the videos done before December even comes or whatever, and then I can spend a little bit more time doing stuff. Psychic Tiger, what are you? To be fair, it's a very long video, but yeah, I mean, I'd appreciate it if you leave a comment and watch the Norska video, of course, because I'd like it to get out further than just the core audience stuff. But it seems to be doing okay so far. It's moving at a steady rate. And Emmanuel, thank you very much for the kind comments. What was I saying? Yeah, the big project. So Arno would be the one I will get into. It depends on how the schedule goes for the 4C stuff, because like I said, I'd like to do the videos, then also there's something I want to do with them afterwards. So it depends how long that takes. I don't know if I'm gonna have the foresight to start prepping on Arno at the same time. It really depends how much time it takes up for me, but I want to try something different with it. But yeah, the Arno video, I'm going to start looking into stuff. I have a bunch of research in a document somewhere already, lots of density, but I'm probably going to start talking to people I know who are big Arno heads and trying to get lots of resources for the video. That will be probably my key for it. Just really hammering down on those, because Arno has a lot of weird misinformation around his projects too, just because of the lack of information when they were coming out and how popular some of them were. So I wanted to make sure I'm on the right level for a lot of that stuff. And yeah, I don't know if 4C will be a successful bunch of videos, but I guess the ideal of doing a month of videos is that at least one of them will do well. And there are a couple pretty... I feel like a video on Spriggan, because Spriggan doesn't get talked about very much, I think would be really... I think it will work quite well, especially as part of the bigger narrative. And I could probably shove Akira in the title, because I think, if I believe right, Spriggan is an offshoot of... Well, it's the offspring. A lot of the people who work on Spriggan did work... they were people that, Otomo would have met in Madhouse earlier on, and then people who would have worked on Akira, the founder of 4C and such, and yeah, in style and tone as well. And some of them also seem like they're offshoot, a lot of the people who came off Memories seem to be working on it, it looks like to me. So I'd have to look into it a bit more, but yeah, I reckon Spriggan would be a fascinating little section of the video, the overall arc of 4C. I probably will talk about Memories. I was umming and ahhing if I would, but from an interview I read, 4C effectively said that Memories is a 4C film. It just happens to be that they got Madhouse to help do one of the films, like one of the shorts. So that was like more of a production kind of like easing thing. And there was apparently at one time going to be more shorts, but they didn't at the end. I guess for like cost reasons, they're like, oh, we have enough film to make a feature with these three. So instead of spending more time on a fourth one, we'll just keep it to the three. And Otomo was also involved there, but Otomo again, Otomo and Morimoto, I think his name is Morimoto, is it? Like the founder, one of the founders of 4C. They're like they go back way back to the Madhouse days, back to Genma Taizen. So and there's interviews I'm pretty sure with Otomo where he's like said he pushed his palette into directing because he didn't want it. I know he was an artist and he saw, I guess he saw the potential of him and was like encouraging always to be directing stuff, if that being like Robot Carnival or going into later projects too, like Memories. Kami-san, you're talking about productivity. Is this about? I'm not very. I don't think there's really much I can give you for productivity. If I'm honest, I feel that you just have to be vigilant. Maybe with the word diligent, vigilant. You kind of just have to stick to it, because your focus will wander, and you have to just have the conservation to continue the project and keep just having it like broken down into smaller pieces that you can handle. That would be how I would deal with it, because I don't really feel that I'm particularly good at focusing. Probably very bad at it actually, but you just have to keep playing that game. Gunbuster will probably be talked about with the Arno stuff, to be honest, Psychic Tiger. It will be a factor in it. Can I do a biography project on Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust? I've already talked about Bloodlust, and I've talked about most of Kawajiri's films already. I don't really know if I have enough extra info outside of what I've basically made a video on pretty much all his movies. More or less. I mean, OVA's TV shows, there's little extra bits there, but I've talked about Kawajiri's entire career through the Madhouse month, and me and my friend talked about Bloodlust in a very long, sort of more rambly video. But I don't think there's anything else I could say about it, and yeah, I don't think there's anything new I could say about Kawajiri I haven't said in those videos, and I don't really have the drive to. I don't think there's anything to me that I have that's new information or that would be worthwhile bringing up in a completely new video about him, to be honest. And Hayden, yeah, I think 4C are very cool, except for when they're like fucking over their employees, but that'll be a story for one of the parts of the videos. I mean, you get mixed signals with it though too, because there's obviously like if you're an employee at 4C, it seems most of them are pretty happy, I guess, but it's hard to tell. Like animation projects are already inherently a nightmare, and 4C does encourage like a lot of freelancing. So freelancing experiences can vary, especially if the schedule gets fucked or if like the budget. There's like so many factors there. Yeah, Windnail and I think an interesting film. The guy, the person playing I is the Eighth Doctor, right? Very, very, very pretty in his young age. Very porcelain-faced man. And yeah, I think there's very much a unique style to it, although like it got weirdly homophobic in the middle. I guess a sign of the times, but yeah, it's very strange how like precedent they put to that story beat. Yeah, 4C September, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, sure. 4C Zember. I don't know how I'd say that in words, but that kind of gist, yeah. Did I like Arno's Godzilla film? Yeah, I thought it was very good. I like his take on Godzilla. Yeah, for sure. I think the music was great. I certainly think for me the film is stronger in like the first half, up until the point where like Godzilla freezes. But I think the second half also works to like bring it all together. But yeah, I really like the first half of the film. To me is like really really interesting. I guess I don't know how to put it. There's something very visceral about the first half I like, especially up to like just how horrific the breakdown and destruction of Tokyo is when they like fire the bombs at him and he just like blasts out the purple ray and it's like hell on earth. It really is like very visceral, especially to the music. Rata, thank you very much. Yeah, like the Arno video, who knows how long that will take because I want to be a little bit weird with it, I guess. I like to take it in a more like, how would I put it? In my head, at least, I have this idea that the video is going to be a bit more creatively driven. I don't know how to say that because they kind of always are, but more like narratively driven, maybe. Like I kind of want to have these like weirder animated I mean, if my wrist is okay at the time, of course. If my wrist is up to the task, I'd like to have a couple like weird animated segments that sort of tie together periods in his life because on his career and like his content is already quite like that. But yeah, especially since the whole thesis of the um, the video is probably going to be around depression mainly because that's something that obviously Arno's he struggled with his whole career and it's kind of like ups and downs and spirals and struggling with just like yeah the roughness which is the industry of anime, how disillusioned he got towards like the late to mid 90s with that and how he became like I believe he said that beyond that point like with the Ava films they were all like self-funded, at least the first one's self-funded and I have to check up how that went for the next ones, but he kind of wanted to stay away from anyone that could like I guess mess him around like he could before. Now he had the privilege to do that. But yeah, I think it'll be a fascinating one, and hopefully I can find. I mean, there's so much stuff on Arno out there, so I can't imagine it'll be hard. It's almost just to me maybe more overwhelming that I find all the right stuff. Like I can find all the best info, and bring that together in a video and sort of make it a more like artistic driven like journey into like the idea of creating in the first place and the exhausting process and burnout that comes with it at times, especially when you're dealing with your own mental state. I think that's really would be the core of the whole production, and especially not to glorify it either. It disgusts me to see like the glorification of like depressive creative mindsets. It's just it doesn't help. It just makes everything harder, and like it's the perseverance which is the key. It's not the being in that state to begin with. Yeah, I also heard Spriggan's having a new project, but David Production to me sounds like the worst people to work on it ever. So I don't know. I don't trust David Production with that. I guess you can expect it to be a panel to panel remake of the original source material with some pretty colors, I guess. I've been quoting. I dedicate my youth to Takahata, and he hasn't done anything for me. Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good. It's a pretty good little line. I took several takes for that. There was like at least 3 or 4 like drunken takes of me doing the I dedicated my youth to Takahata, and I think I took the one which was just like the most dramatic. I had some which were a bit more like whimpering and drunk, but then I was like, no, that's just really. I think I took at least the most dramatic I could have that didn't have me just destroying the mic, like just like blurring it, like busting the mic. Yeah, just like with fuzz or whatever, just like the distortion. But yeah, I think that was. To be honest, I've heard that take so many times now. I can't listen back to it. I have to skip it. I think it was the right take to use, if I'm honest. But like, it's hard for me to listen back to it now, just because it is very extra. But I think it suits the character I give to Miyazaki, which is, I think it's a very accurate character that he is completely. I don't know how to put it. I mean, like the way Joe Hisashi said, the most earnest man in the world, but like incredibly, it is like the mind of a toddler at sometimes. Like this earnestly dramatic fellow that like flip flops every opinion every 10 minutes or whatever, just like goes from one extreme to the other and just being really like in the momently, earnestly on whatever he's saying, even though he might change his mind in 2 seconds. And yeah, the dramaticness that comes with that, but. Yeah, Koji Morimoto. Yeah, Morimoto. 4C and Madhouse do have they have connections. Like Morimoto used to work at Madhouse, so like there's definitely like through lines. A lot of their like staff members, I think they sort of taken they both Production IG and Madhouse seem to be quite affiliated with 4C, especially probably with people who work in those places. So there is like there is like a you can see the connection there, and also you can see that one of the founders of 4C used to work at Ghibli as a producer, like a line producer, back during the Totoro Kiki era, and they were the ones that created the original studio in '86. But like they didn't, there's not a huge amount produced for the studio until like the mid '90s when. But like there's a couple shorts I think in the early '90s if I remember right. But like the first big production's Memories, so that comes out in '95. That was probably took a couple years. So probably she would have left Ghibli at like '91ish. So like after that you got a couple years of the production of Memories, and it's all history from there. There's a lot of music videos too that came out. What you'll notice about 4C is that they are definitely like a very workman horse like in that they do a lot of extra stuff outside of animation. They work with video games. They work on recently they just went with Google. They made like a Google video game on the Doodle system, which had all this animation and other concepts. They were very like involved in that. They do a lot of adverts. They work on video game cutscenes. They work on small production things here, like just little bits and pieces, short movies, ads, wherever they can find themselves an excuse, they tend to go for it. Which I guess is kind of admirable that they're always trying to adapt to whatever they can get away with doing, I guess. And a lot of it, I guess, is just commission pay. So, you got to pay the bills to keep a studio like that running, which realistically 4C probably isn't very profitable. Realistically. They don't make massive films. How's it going, Ego? And what else we got here? When will the gamer desk bang appear in the video? It might. Who knows? Maybe Arno's a bit of a gamer. We'll find out. So yeah, Uncle Monty. That was from the film, right? Based on Franco Zeffiri, the director of Romeo and Juliet '60s. Is that the English Romeo and Juliet? The memes. I think I've seen the meme before. Is like Miyazaki to Junji Ito. I don't know how. What was the context of the meme though? With Junji, is it something to do with personality or something? That like Miyazaki's work is like very child friendly, but his content's child friendly, but like working with him can be a disaster. I think that's the context. I mean, because, well, I feel like there's obviously, I don't know, when people make these points, they don't know these people, so like I always find it's a little bit weird. But like if we're talking about oh, Junji Ito loves the Beatles, yeah, I mean, whatever. Sure. I don't really think it matters if Miyazaki hates the Beatles or not. Who fucking cares? They were. It doesn't surprise me. I don't know. Miyazaki's very particular in his taste in all things. I don't imagine he's. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. Miyazaki doesn't seem like he's much of a pop guy anyway. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly like a difference in like, at least in the experience of people who work with Miyazaki, right? There's a difference like in being in a production with him and like sitting down to have tea with him. Like these are like dramatically different people, and that comes with the being on the job, right? And actually, it's funny because Morimoto, speaking of 4C, right? Morimoto, because of their closeness, that like that, you know, the one of the creators of 4C used to work at Ghibli. They still have connections there. I believe she still worked as like freelance producing sometimes. But Morimoto said like his time spent in Ghibli, I don't think he actually worked on any major projects as far as I understand. But he had spent time in the studio, and he recalled it to being that Miyazaki is the emperor. Like, it's a studio where the idiosyncraticness of working at Ghibli is that Miyazaki is emperor and you are like the peasants. Yeah. He is king to the motive, so like you follow the king. Like there is like no there's not really the room for like wiggle. How's it going, my friend? But yes, sorry, getting back to it. Uh, sorry, I missed I missed a comment. God damn it. I don't know how, but I mean, Jackal, I think it's debated if Arno actually hates otaku or not. I think he hates what he would call. There was an old poster here that he wasn't a fan of. What did he call them? Basically, like otaku who are stuck within like fantasy land, like ones that he said the ones that are too far gone. That he wasn't a fan of trying to and that he, I think in the 2012 interview he said that he had no interest in trying to like remove them from their space because he said it's not worth the time and it doesn't work. Whatever you wanted to call them. Oh, look at that. Billy, my friend. Nice to see you here. Look at that, 8 months, goddamn. Well, Luigi was never going to be in Smash, my friend. He was never going to be in Smash. And he never will be. That's a little joke Nintendo plays. Yeah, well... How's it going, Floggy, too? Yeah, I mean, when Oshi joked that Ghibli was like the Kremlin, I mean, it's kind of true. It seems to be, at least. I mean, it's hard for... We're outside. We're outside the thing. We can only really go from what people say, but generally every interview I've seen with people who work at Ghibli says it is a very stressful environment at times. Yeah, or even beforehand, like, yeah, it's pretty intense. And I don't know, like, there are like two sides to it. But again, this is probably mainly to do with Miyazaki Productions and Takahata, because even though Takahata gets like the reputation of being like kind of like a more chill dude, his productions sound like absolute fucking nightmares because Takahata... There's actually a saying, which is, I think, is probably better than the Ito saying, because there's more fitting, but like... the idea is that Takahata's productions, like the movies he makes, are realistic, but his goals during productions are complete fantasies. Where Miyazaki's films are fantasy, but his goals during productions are completely realistic. Because Miyazaki doesn't like to miss deadlines. He really hates the idea of missing a deadline, so he's very strict on that, like that facet of it. And he may have gotten a bit more loose as the years that went by because he has the luxury to be, but like in his early years, definitely it was always like, no, must always hit the deadline. Where Takahata does not give two shits about losing a deadline. He sees himself as a fucking kidnapper, because he's like, well, as long as I have the reel, they can't really stop production, can they? Like, I've got the film. Like, I'm holding it ransom. That's how Takahata approached all his films. It's like, I'm holding the film ransom. What are they going to do? What are they going to fucking do? Like, they're not going to release the film? I'm not giving them the reel. And this probably became very stressful. Like, there's a lot of stories about working on Takahata Productions which sound like the worst fucking thing ever. Even in, I believe in Kingdom Madness and Dreams, they bring up one really specific one. I'm wondering if I can find a better, like, more in-depth version of it. But during My Neighbor Yamada's, there's, like... The idea was that they completely threw out the scheduling that they usually did and changed everything up for Yamada's, and it was a complete disaster, and it went like way over time and budget, and then didn't make any money, and it was just like a complete mess, and they were really angry at Takahata. They were like, you're never making another fucking film ever again. And then somehow, like, there was a random person who was like really dedicated to the idea of funding like a Takahata film, and that's why he got to make another one afterwards. And another producer had to come in and try and convince Takahata to do it. And then that took 8 years, and that's history. But yeah, there's a lot of stories about Takahata's productions just being, even people who worked on them, like animators, like Tanaka. She once said that like the problem with Takahata is he doesn't communicate like at all. Like he's really bad at communicating with people. And you hear lots of stories about this during Princess Kaguya as well. That he just the people were just like, what the fuck does he want? I don't know what he wants. She said something along the lines that she would give the keyframes in when she worked with him. And then he'd just throw them back on her desk, but he wouldn't tell her why, and then she'd redo them and put them back on the desk, and then he'd put them back on her desk, and again he wouldn't tell her why, and then she'd redo them again, and then suddenly they wouldn't be back on her desk again. And Arno has a story as well about working on Grave, because he did the battleships in one moment in Grave, and he was like, fucking hell, I wasn't good enough. He said he was just like, I couldn't work at Takahata's level. It was too much. It was so difficult. I was not there at that point. It was such a struggle to do, even though he's got like one tiny scene, and he was just like, I couldn't do it. So, you know, when people like Arno are saying that, you know, like it's fucking messed up. Billy, nice emotes. I love my emotes there. Where are we at? Will I mention Arno's house burning down during Ava's production? If I can find a reliable source on what happened in the quotes and such, then yeah, I will do. That sounds like a pretty emotional moment. It sounds like a Kurosawa moment. Like, you know, it actually might be good imagery. Maybe it's a little bit distasteful, I don't know. But the idea of watching your house burning down while your production seems to be going to fucking shit, or you're really struggling with it, and then it'll becoming disillusioned. I feel like there's definitely like a cohesive mix between those 2 points if we're playing that game. Mean, but it's real. Sure. I don't know. I forget what that's about, Study, but saw Dad. Sorry, but nice to see you here, even way. Camelot. Oh, okay. Camelot makes the tennis games, do they? You know who designed Waluigi, if I remember right? If I recall right. I'm trying to remember this correctly. I'm pretty sure Waluigi was designed by... I have a feeling that Waluigi was designed by Kotabe, who I made a video about. You know, ex-Toei, friends with Miyazaki going way back, and Takahata. I'm pretty sure he actually is the person who designed Waluigi and Yoshi and a myriad of other like characters that. I mean, he pretty much redesigned the whole cast. So like the way Mario looks to this day is still very much on the shoulders of Kotabe's designs, even down to the point that he was one of the people who helped adjust him into 3D. And was like there to sort of be like, all right, this is how we're gonna have to adjust this model to make it work in a 3D space, and this is how it should look from this angle, that angle, etc. He also did that with Pokemon, if I remember right. Very, very talented man. Arno specifically, yeah, escapist otaku. That would probably be the word he said. Because it's very interesting, because at the end of the radio, this is in 2009, in the end of the 2009 radio conversation with Suzuki, he basically says like, yeah, I love anime and I love tokusatsu stuff. I've just loved this shit. I just love it. And that was like how he ended it, if I remember right. He was just like, yeah, I'm basically like a proud declaration of his nerdness, that he's just like, just really like this stuff, just really do. I just really love it. That's all. And I mean, he obviously loved it enough to do like a whole commentary for Nausicaa, which isn't his film, and he's just a key animator on it. But he did a whole commentary with the assistant director, and I guess they only let that happen because Arno's such a big predominant figure in Japan that like he can just get away with being like, yeah, I know Miyazaki will never do a commentary on this, but I want to do one with I want to reminisce for like an hour and a half, and they let it happen. It's such a weird situation, but yeah. I don't know. I think you have to be somewhat interested in the craft, or, I mean, to be fair, he's a big Nausicaa head anyway. But Where are we at? Leonard. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well, Leonard. I think the important thing to take from Nintendo, which I'm not going to talk about tonight, but I'll leave it at this. But like getting Sora in Smash, from what I understand, is the most legal nightmare situation ever. So I think Sakurai did it because he wanted to, because there's a lot of other figures that would have been so much easier and were probably bigger than Kingdom Hearts that he could have put in the game. But that sounds like it was been, yeah, because there are stories from what I've been told that people who work at Square on Final Fantasy 14 won't fucking touch Kingdom Hearts like stuff, because obviously the game's full of like all these add-ons and tie-in stuff, and they're like, "Nah, we won't fucking touch Kingdom Hearts because that you have to go through the mouse, and we ain't happening. Fuck no." And thoughts on in how do I say Inoue and Inoue, Naohisa, right? Naohisa or Naohisa. He's like one of the background painters, right, in Ghibli stuff. He's very talented. Was one of the key people who worked on Grave, if I remember right. I think he was more important for Isao Takahata's thing. He did a lot of like the production. I don't know what you'd call them. They're sort of like concept pieces that defined the look of a film. He did a lot of those for Takahata. He was like a really key. It was like Kondo early on, and God, how would I say it? Inoue. Inoue. However I say his name, it's too late. I'm tired. I can't be saying it right now. But yeah, he was really important, and I'm pretty sure he was a strong background painter as well. I think he was. I mean, was he? I think he was quite important in the last one too. I mean, Kit. To be honest, if you're an animator, you lose either way. when you when you're working with Takahata Miyazaki, you have already lost. I mean, it's a great experience, I'm sure, great and good to put on the resume, but like you're going to have a hard time. Though I do hear that Miyazaki is slightly easier to work with in later years because you don't tend to have to like with the bigger productions at Ghibli, you may not talk to Miyazaki as much. You have like you'll defer to Keanu, like animation directors and all this other stuff. So it's not like the old days where he'd be like breathing over your desk all the time as much, but still, you know, when Kingdom of Madness came out, was that 2012, 2011? There's still people like literally they've been like, yeah, the more you do, the more he demands of you, and it's like it's a pretty exhausting process. Okay, I see. Well, Debbie Daly, I don't know if your family will appreciate the video. I mean, if they click it and like it, maybe it'll be good for it. But I appreciate the thought at least. Right, where were we? My dad entered. Oh, he entered the stream. Oh, my bad. I didn't know we were streaming to parents today. All right. Where are we at? What is a very human thing? Oh, the Ina Ue? Yeah, I think Nero. I've seen the thing you're talking about. I'm pretty sure. Um, like one of those little animation little bits. They had one too, with one of the inspirations from one of the inspirational painters of Whisper of the Hearts sequences, like the dream sequences, if I recall. I think I've seen the one you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen this one. So yeah, it's very scenic, if I remember right. This one, but yeah, it's the person that inspired a lot of the stuff in Whisper of the Heart, especially the dream sequences. Oh, he entered your room. Oh, okay. Whoops. Oh well. Okay. Anyway, back to the apologies, everyone. I should get back to it. So, ino u ue ue whatever the fuck it is. Ino ue. I always forget that sound. The ue. because what was that? That's like ue, 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 inu ue, you know it? Or was it ue? Whatever it is, it's fine. Whatever. Yeah, I should probably get back to the topic at hand. So, how long have we been going? We're going a little while. All right. So soon enough, I was just going to tell everyone, yeah, slight updates. If I haven't said it before, wrist fucked. Slightly getting better, but you know, working through that. That's been a slow burn situation. That's why I haven't done as many like dedicated animation sequences and videos. I've kind of like had to slow down with that because it's just not good for the wrist. But like, yeah, as soon as I'm getting a little bit better again, we'll probably get more into it. Especially with the Arno video, I feel like there's definitely some dedicated animation sequences I would like to do for that, especially to try and visually convey a lot of the stuff in the story as they happens. And when it comes to videos coming out, yeah, like I said, Arno's definitely going to be a production. But first we're going to be doing 4C month because I said like we've only done like 6 videos this year. There is another video coming out maybe next week or the week after. As the video update's going to say, I'm waiting on a sponsor for it, I believe. But like it's on Patreon right now. So like it is accessible, people can watch it, but I'm just waiting to like get the okays and the thumbs up, which may take longer than I'd like. But you know, you got to keep the channel running, and that's the plan with it basically. So December is probably when we're going to next like clump of videos. But yeah, in the next couple of weeks we'll have a bonus video, which I basically made during the production of Nausicaa, to the Nausicaa videos, on Fantastic Planet, which again not anime necessarily, but the classic French animation. I mentioned it slightly in Nausicaa, that's why I was, you know, they're like 2 peas in the pod, I guess, at this point. But that will be coming out soon enough. And then, yeah, in December, 4C month, I don't know how I could call that, September, no, 4 Decembers, 4 degree December, I guess 4 degrees December will probably be the title. It's a slightly cold December. That's how we're going to do it, 4 December. I'll just probably call it 4C month. Just 4C month. I don't know. If I do a trailer for it, I'm curious to try something out this time. Like, instead of having the trailer be a separate video, because now you can do this on YouTube, I'd like to premiere each of the videos with the trailer as you can have a trailer when you premiere a video. So when I do a stream before each video, which maybe will happen, maybe I'll do a short stream before, like a prep stream, whatever. Like I'll do like 30 minutes an hour before each video comes out, if I can afford the time. Yeah, we'll premiere the video, and I'll keep the premiere up going for a little bit, and then then the trailer can play during that period. That might be a fun thing to try out. But yeah, this is the slows of it. Health concerns, I'll get into the video, but just gotta be careful, I guess. That's why I've dedicated myself to not try and get videos out very super frequently, because it takes its toll after a while. So like I'm trying to be more responsible, trying to do these larger videos which I'm more interested in. Though 4C month will be the alternative, I guess. But like I'm hoping at the end of the 4C month to turn it into a big video on 4C. Like just take those videos and structure them in such a way where like maybe with a couple of add-ons and adjustments they can become one big video on 4C where we talk about everything. So we'll have all these little segments, and then maybe I'll touch them up too. That's the plan with that. Ue, is it? Oh, okay, Ue. There we go. That's the answer then. So it's Eno. So what was it? Eno Ue. Okay, I think I got that. I mean, Miyazaki's very resilient, Jordan. So, like, if he dies during it, he dies. But I'm pretty sure that Suzuki would have a backup plan and how to finish the film. I don't think he'd let the millions of dollars that have went into the film, and that have been reimbursed through, like, Netflix deals, go to waste. The film will be finished. Could I do a video on rotoscope in anime? Too vague, I think. Too vague. That the history of rotoscoping in anime would be like at first you'd need to figure out who's animating in rotoscope and anime, which isn't quite as common really. Doesn't really happen as much. Like the history of that would be a bit more strange to like decipher. Because yeah, you'd need to know what definitely is rotoscope. It's not really, again, it's not really a technique used very frequently in anime. Very rarely. Like recently, I know Carol and Tuesday did quite a bit of it because of their like music sequences, and Kiss on the Slope as well did it for its music sequences. There probably are other examples here and there of places where it's happened or used a mixture of like 3D and CGI and rotoscoping, but mm, mm, I feel like it's too vague in the anime sphere. You'd have to talk about it like broadly, like internationally, really. Nah, we're not doing Macross. Hmm. 4C, yeah, 4C month is probably the fine one. Yeah, I mean, I think Fantastic Planet and a lot of Lelou's work are very popular in the East, and that kind of becomes predominant in his third feature. When Leloup releases his third feature film, which is in like the late 80s, it was done in North Korea of all places. Like he was animating in Asia, and I think it's because his work, and he said it himself, his work is quite revered in the East area. Um, yeah, I mean, well, Tech on Kin Street. How do I say it? Tech on Kin Street. I probably have to figure out how to say it by the time I do the video. But Tech on King Tech on King Street, right? That will be part of 4C month. That's one of their titles, so yeah, I'll talk about it probably. Um, I don't keep up too much with old horror anime, so I'll let the chat talk about that. Yeah, Mahoushoujo Arusu. Is that the one I think it is? Yeah, Tweeny Witches, right? I saw a little bit of that and like I feel very strange about it. I don't know, like it's definitely a visual like a visually teeny witches or however they call it in Japan. Very unique sort of visual flavor to it. It's definitely 4C. You can tell they've got their like storyboard artist out and like all the concepts and the world building. Very fascinating. And the first episode looks pretty good, but like the story is so baffling to me. Like the way it's structured and the way it's handled. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm in a dream, like watching it, because I'm just like, is this real? I'm just so like, I feel so strange watching it. I don't know. There's something about it. I'm just so like, maybe it's me. I don't know, but I just feel so disconnected from it all, and like the way it's done, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, the thing is, ego, right? Bad rotoscoping tends to feel off-putting and disturbing, unless that's the intended like use of it. But rotoscoping as a whole is a pretty thorough technique, but it's one that has to be used correctly. Like no one looks at the Aha video by like Take on Me and goes, that feels uncomfortable. It feels very natural in its world, like the way they jump between real life and the rotoscope. That it seems pretty effective, and there are certainly different moments, like films like Scanner Darkly use rotoscoping very effectively because they understand the context of a technique like that, where like it could feel pretty alright, but like there is something kind of uncanny about the film, but it's intentional uncanniness that the rotoscope brings and how it can sort of bring that like warping of reality effect. Like you have to understand how to use that technique. I mean, the issue with like a weekly deadline is I don't think it's really like conducive to like getting good effects out of your rotoscoping. It's certainly a technique that takes a little know-how, and you need to know how close you want to go, because the closer you go to reality with a rotoscope, the more it's going to become uncanny. So you have to understand where the balance point is in your rotoing, because I mean, there's definitely some rotoscoping in anime. Isn't the Chica dance, isn't that rotoscope? I have a feeling it's rotoscope. It feels that way, but I couldn't like clarify it. But like the meme Chica dance, where she does the dance in the ED, isn't it? That I'm pretty sure that's a rotoscope thing. It's very fluent sort of dance, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone go, "That's uncanny." It seems pretty appropriate to me. Akuno Hana, isn't that the movie Akuno Hana? Oh no, that's the is it not CG? I thought there was some CG in that one. This is the one which the person who's now doing the Junji Ito Uzumaki adaptation is now working on, right? I played a little bit of Guilty Gear back in the day, but my wrist wouldn't allow me these days. Oh yeah, the Devilman OVAs are pretty good. Rolf Bakshi's rotoscoping is pretty suspicious, right? From what I remember, I haven't seen much of Ralph Bakshi's that stuff, but that's like Topcraft, isn't it? No, that's after Topcraft fell apart, I think. Topcraft did The Hobbit, which is beforehand. Well, no, it probably wouldn't be a profitable video, because if you're talking about rotoscope, you'd have to talk about it broadly. You couldn't just talk about it in a very niche capacity, I don't think. I mean, I take anything that Disney Animator says with a pinch of salt, quite frankly, because Disney has a very specific method of animation, which, you know, they have tried to fool everyone into say that's the only way you should animate, and I don't really agree. But, you know, they're obviously very talented. The people who worked on Fantation were very talented. Animation needs to play with their characters. I mean, I don't know, that's just fucking flowery language. Like, do it the fuck how you want. Don't let some fucking old boomer tell you what to do. I mean, to be fair, when you do rotoscoping too, there is an element where you have to know when to adjust. Like, to do a rotoscope properly, that means that you need to understand what you're doing and not just copy from the reality of the frame. You have to understand how something works and why it works, and where you need to like compromise and adjust, and, you know, add smears or reduce the like. It's all technique, but it's just a different technique. Spaceman Jane. We're probably going to be cutting it soon. Isn't rotoscoping using a lot of Sakuga stuff? No, not as far as I understand. The problem with, or the thing with a rotoscope situation is you need to have someone there. You need to have a reference, right? For rotoscoping to work, you need to have a reference point. And to do like a lot of Sakuga stuff, like there's no way you could have a reference point for that stuff unless you're like some sort of crazy martial artist. I mean, there is a way of using footage where you don't have to rotoscope it. Like, you can shoot reference of you doing something and then use that as a point to help animate, or you can use with real life. Say for example, back in the day, someone like Otsuka, rest in peace Otsuka, but Yasuo Otsuka, he was a Toei animator, predominant, then went to Telecom and all this other stuff. Worked with Miyazaki a lot. He bought a catfish back in the early days of Toei because he had some catfish. He had some like fish cuts, and he did multiple fish cuts in at least 2 or 3 Toei films. Most predominant being in Horus Prince of the Sun, which has one of the most legendary fish scenes in it. And at that point, he'd probably owned that fish for a good 6 or 7 years. But like he really understood how it moves and how it flips and goes around. And yeah, it's an incredibly impressive scene, especially at the time. But yeah, like there's I think there's a difference. Even like, you know, Disney, like they would sometimes have people pose in front of them so they could kind of figure out, like, key posing. You know, you have different people in front of you to help you figure out the shape of life. You know, it wasn't all from up here. Where are we at? Oh, did Hiroshi Nagahama? He worked on Detroit Metal City. I'm probably going to talk about Detroit Metal City. Probably not in the month, but in the actual final video, when I make the final collect. Because I do love that show. I watched it many years ago, though. And since recently, like maybe 6 months ago, I've rewatched the first episode, and it's still held up to me. Yeah, I really do love Detroit Metal City. I'm not sure how I would incorporate it into the video, but it would have to be like in an OVA section, I guess. The way I'd have to turn it into a video would be to sort of have these other sections added in, like video games, shorts, music videos, adverts, OVAs, that, like, anthologies. Like, I'd have to have these sequences on top of the already plethora of movies they've done. What are we even talking about? Oh, Inks Manga. I appreciate the comment about the Norska video. Anyone who hasn't seen it yet, it's pinned in the thing. Watch the Norska video. But yeah, there'll be an update coming out. What time is it now? All right, it's been roughly an hour, so I might go another 10-15 minutes just to give people update stream. We're chatting for a bit, but yeah, the actual update video, as soon as I finish the stream, I'll just make it public. And yeah, it will just be, basics of stuff I've said here, but like probably presented in a much more cohesive fashion. But yeah, we'll just chat for a bit. I mean, Motebag, I don't have time to be watching Lupin Part 6, Part 7 even, Part 7, Part 6, whatever part is coming out. I don't have time to watch it. But yeah, DMC, not Devil May Cry, but Detroit Metal City, very fun. Don't really know how I'm going to incorporate that in there, but I've always thought it was pretty fun show. I don't remember it having very impressive cuts or anything. I think it is very like I guess it's the timing, right? Detroit Metal City has pretty good timing from what I remember. I don't remember the cuts being like particularly amazing, but the timing being really good. Even though like it's a pretty garish show, but it doesn't really show anything garish, if I remember right. Isn't that like its thing? It like more implies a lot of stuff, but doesn't actually show anything like that's really gnarly. It's all just like foul language, mostly. Well, the WebGen animators would look more like. Nah. WebGen animators are very talented. I don't agree at all. Protocol, whatever the fuck your name is. The WebGen animators had their own way of doing things. That's fine. Like, they're not going to always do things the same. They had their own techniques. They had their own ways of approaching things. It's fine. Steam Boy is cool, but I probably won't mention it too much in the 4C stuff, just because, as far as I understand, 4C didn't play a massive role in it. It was animated by Sunrise. Despite what Mel will tell you, I think 4C may have done some backup on it. I'd have to look a little bit more into that, how that works, but it isn't a 4C film, as far as I know. I'll double check that stuff, but it's not really counted as one of theirs. They may have just done some commission work on it because, Steam Boy was like 180,000 frames and a ton of CGI, and 4C has a pretty good CGI department. Maybe they did the CGI on it, I'm not sure. But yeah, maybe it'll probably be mentioned in passing in a full version. Like if I stick all the 4C together, that would be mentioned more on that than it would be a separate entry. Because if I'm going to talk about Steam Boy, it would have to be in an Otomo video. And now an Otomo video definitely is something I'm interested in doing. I have 2 Otomo videos planned, but I'd probably want to do them closer to when he's going to release his new stuff, if that be his new movie or the Akira series. I feel like that would be the more appropriate time to release 2 of them. Though they probably do fine any time, but like it's good to have a schedule in mind, opposed to just like an aimless idea. The Mad Monster animated video in Detroit Metal City. I don't remember this. It's been too long since I've seen it. What happens with this Mad Monster? Is this like I'm trying to remember this. I don't know. I'll trust you on this, but like it's been too long for me to remember. Like I said, the only thing I particularly remember now about Detroit Metal City is probably pretty familiar with the first episode. After that, it's a bit of a blur. I was at one of the. Yeah, I mean maybe there's some of the like band moments. I mean animating like live music is always quite difficult, so it'd be interesting to see how they do that. Just because it's a very particular skill to get animation, because you have to sync it too. But like Detroit Metal City, is OVA, so it doesn't have like a weekly schedule. So they may have had more nuance, you could say, or like more leeway in like animating those sort of musical scenes than they would if they were on a strict deadline. I've got some pretty good titles for the Otomo videos. Um, the titles, as I remember them, would probably be Akira Impact. I think it would just be The Akira Impact or something like that, and The Akira Problem. I think those would be the two titles, and they'd be released fairly close to each other because they're like two pieces of the same puzzle. One of them being about like the production of Akira and like all the stuff that it did, and also like really hammering down on some of the stuff which people say which is just not fucking true. Like, you know, in every Akira video you usually see on YouTube, they all go like, it was animated on wands. No, it wasn't. Nothing is animated on wands. You fools. You don't know how animation works. Nothing is fully animated on wands. You'd have nowhere to go if you did that. Allegedly to Mark, in his video on, like, or his book even on animatism, he says that it's usually considered like classic Disney's like 18 frames a second usually. So they have, you can go up and down a bit. And as Richard Williams once said, you know, ones and twos are like reds and blues. You don't choose just one of them. You choose the one that's most appropriate for the scene. You know, if you're moving faster, it tends to be better to use ones. That's what he said. So that's how it works. So like something like Akira that has roughly over 100 something thousand frames, but is like almost 2 hours long. Obviously, it's not on ones. Like, and they also use, even in like the behind the scenes, they show you they use twos and threes for different effects. Like, you use different speeds. Like, if you're running the motorcycles, going fast, probably on ones. Not everything else was, though. And there's just a lot of other stuff like that. I've seen some of Animal Farm, but I've read it, so I've never been too interested in seeing the film, per se. I know it's an old British animated piece. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but, like, yeah, again, I read it years ago, so I wasn't, like, super enthralled on watching it, though it seems fine. It's of the old British caliber of like weirdly fucked up animated films. Animate. It really depends, Psychic Tiger. It really does depend a lot on the cut and who's doing it. I mean, traditionally, they usually say that anime is on like 7 frames a second, so that probably would be more close to 3. That's like the Tezuka method. That doesn't necessarily mean that all animation is on freeze, because it can vary dramatically depending on the scene and what you're doing. Most people don't. There's a reason they have the word like frame interpolation, right? That you will adjust the frames to consider what the scene's about. It's possible that, again, I'm not working there right now, so I can't tell you how frequently what frames are used. But usually there is usually they have like frame counts. They have like a set frame cap for like an episode of television. You'll see them, right? They'll have like if they tell you this, right? But you'll have like a 5,500 frames per like 20-minute sort of cap or whatever for an episode, or something along those lines, right? You'll have a cap of how many frames need to be used in an episode, and that's usually for like budgetary and scheduling stuff. That you don't go over that number because you need to finish it on time. Richard Williams did Roger Rabbit. That's correct. He also did many other things. Richard Williams worked on The Thief and the Cobbler, which I did a video on, though watching back the video, I'm not a huge fan of it, but like there's probably some stuff in there if you want to look at his career. But Roger Rabbit might be his most famous production, although he also worked on a lot of different stuff. Raggedy Ann, 70s film, very good. Very good. A lot of shorts from back in the day. I believe he did the openings for a couple of the Pink Panther films, like the animated openings. Again, they're very, very sharp openings there. He did a lot of adverts back in the 70s. And he's worked around quite a bit, but he's known pretty infamously because he wrote like the what was it called, like the Animation Survival Toolkit or whatever, which is kind of like a how to do traditional golden age animation, the book. Here are the techniques I learned from Disney from back in the day, and other people who worked in those fields. So it is kind of like an extension of Disney method, like ideology, and other sort of like golden age animation technique, but probably more so in the Disney side of things. Like a lot of the examples they use at Disney because Richard Williams worked at Disney for a time. They created Disney UK specifically for him, for Roger Rabbit, if I remember right. So yeah, and he spent most of his time working, Canadian man working in England for most of his animation career. Wait, Ego, where are you getting this idea that it was one of the first movies to run 60 frames per second in some scenes? If my memory, I don't think that's correct, Ego, because if you're shooting on, why would they do that? Because if you're shooting on 24, they're shooting it on film. They're shooting on film, which is probably going to be 24 frames per second or 23.96, depending on how we're rendering it, right? So if you're shooting on 24 frames a second, you can't have 60 frames in a second. You can't do that. That's too many frames. Unless we're talking about some more weird, complicated stuff about how many frames you have in one frame, which is beyond me. Besides, yeah, animation on 60 tends to look pretty weird. Why would and should you do... You should never do... Alright. Realistically, you probably shouldn't do 60 frames a second. On like most of stuff, I mean, you can. Like, it's not like you can't. Like, I know a lot of cameras tend to, like, this camera here is old, so it shoots at like 50 usually, which is it's like a weird angle to shoot at. Like 50 back in the day, like 50 and 60 was used on like soap operas and live television stuff. So to a lot of people's eye, 50 and 60 looks really like a soap opera. It looks weird. And I feel like it's not worth the extra effort, especially, alright, it's backbreaking enough to work on 24 frames a second. You don't need to add that many frames, because no one's going to be able to, most people won't even notice the difference. And if they do, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. I mean, if you want to shoot on a 60 for whatever reason, it really depends on the context of where you're releasing it to. The context being like, what are you watching it on, where are you, like, what's the refresh rate on that, etc, etc. Like, if you're shooting on film, you're probably fine in 24, to be honest. And it's been a standard for so long. I don't think 48 frames per second film or 60 FPS film is going to catch on in any like major way. Although, like in the streaming world or whatever, maybe. Yeah, and YouTube, you might get more 60 frame stuff. Because if it's easy and you can do it that way, people will probably do it. But when it comes to something which is much more complicated, like film, animation, very unlikely. And gosh, just time saying everything by 3 sounds like complete murder for no fucking. There's no reason to do that. More frames is not better. Yeah, not Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies, not the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was pretty sure was shot on film. I'm pretty sure Lord of the Rings was shot on film, so that's definitely not that frame rate. The Hobbit films were shot on Redbox at 48 frames per second. Derby Daily, Akira did not flop. I don't know who the fuck would have told you that. That's just not true at all. In 1992, according to MTV, in 1991 or 2, Akira was the best-selling film in Japanese history during that period of time. Also, in different territories like England, Manga UK or Manga Video basically made a career off selling Akira. Akira was such a popular title that it basically created the biggest, to this day, anime distribution service in our country. And also, it was so popular that they used the money that they got from selling Akira when they ran out of other cyberpunk-esque stuff that was like Akira to then co-fund Ghost in the Shell for the specific purposes of selling it as rental and video and all that. So, Akira did not flop. I don't know who would have told you that, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You can also see in specific figures the difference in the industry between 1988 and 1989 in terms of the general gross of distribution during that period of time in Japan. And what you'll see during that period is a huge boost between those 2 years, which could be related to probably Akira among a couple other titles like Shah's Counterattack. I would probably put a lot of on Akira though because of its box office numbers. Well, to be fair, Ego, a lot of people talk shit about Akira in the way that they just don't know how animation works, so they'll just say stuff off the top of their head they don't understand. The more fluid something is, not necessarily the more... It doesn't always mean there's more frames. I digress. I mean, one of the most important things that Akira did was that, well, if we're saying like one of the most technical things Akira did was probably that like they recorded the audio first and then animated to it, which was a bit more difficult back then to get right with the language lips, like to make it feel correct, because usually it's done the other way around in Japan. So that was definitely like a change that Akira did. But Akira was definitely the most expensive animation movie at that time made in Japan. And the history is pretty predominant on this because they had to create like a super pact of like 8 different companies that would fund it as like a production committee. Like you had like Laserdisc, and you had these other big companies, like you had Kodak, Laserdisc, and then it was shot at TMS as well. So we got TMS, who was like the production house, and then Laserdisc, Kodak, and a bunch of other companies coming together to fund Akira. But it was also made under the contract with Otomo that he had complete creative freedom. So it's a wild situation, quite frankly. Lightning in a bottle. Is the original dub for Akira still there? Maybe? I have no idea. The original dub for Akira like predates me by quite a bit. Well, probably a couple years, because it would be 91. Probably three or so years. Probably somewhere, but they redubbed it not a while ago, didn't they? I know the Japanese is still the same, so... Paco, thank you very much. Anyone who hasn't seen the new video, it's out. I'm probably going to have to cut it close in a second, because I want to release that update and get on with life, but yeah. Psychic Tiger, I like how Akira is Ego, it's not traditionally Japanese music. Neither of those films. Neither Akira and Ghost in the Shell have traditionally Japanese music. Akira has music that is world music. Mainly, I believe one of the core influences would be Tibetan sort of throat singing, if I remember right. I don't want to say that off the top of my head, but like Akira was composed by a Japanese group, but it's a group of like a ton of people. They have a very specific name. I forget the name of it, but they have like a thing where there's like 60 of them. A lot of them are from different places in the world, and their influences are very wide. They've multiple times done like these sort of like DJ mixes where they talk about their influences, and they are like definitely quite wide. A lot of like Russian classical and other different like pieces that they go for. But like I wouldn't say that. And same with Ghost in the Shell. The Ghost in the Shell like sounds, that's not a Japanese choir. Maybe. Well, again, the instruments is questionable. It depends what we're talking about. There might be a couple of Japanese instruments in there too. Depends on what moment, where. But yeah, like the band that worked on Akira are like an international world. They make world music, to quote them. What are they called? God, can I even say that? Gei no Yamashi Rogumi. Jesus Christ, that's quite the name. Gei no Yamashi Rogumi. They have a website. A music collective, they call themselves. But there's hundreds of people. That's the cat. It's quite interesting. In my Blu-ray books, it's kind of interesting because, you know, they like to big this stuff up, but with the Blu-ray transfer, they talk about like the music clarity, because Blu-ray has a lot more space for music fidelity, and they talk about all like the different like levels of because the soundtrack had apparently like a lot of like there's a lot of detail in the lower ends and higher ends that you can barely hear. So like they were talking about how they could bring that back into the Blu-ray version because of the extra amount of space they had, which is pretty fascinating. They had like a lot of rumble and just sort of like small ambient noise to it. It's definitely a soundtrack I'd like to own, I think. Great soundtrack. But yeah, oh no, sorry, not Tibetan, to Indonesian. A lot of the music's Indonesian, among other places. Yeah, I mean, I feel that they just really wanted the project to work, and they kind of needed Otomo on board. I guess this was because of Miyazaki's success. This would be, I don't have anything concrete on that now, but because Miyazaki went from manga to director, and Nausicaa was very much a success of its time, I feel like they were trying to do the same for Otomo was pretty popular at the time. Like he went from like indie darling to quite popular quite fast. Come up, cat. Come on, get up. There you go. How's it going? Yeah, so I feel like maybe they were trying to get the same success out of it by having, because it's just quite a rare thing to get one person to jump from mediums, and surprised it works so well. But you know, yeah, Indonesians. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, as far as I understand, Lord of the Rings was probably shot on 24 because it's on film. As far as I know, anyway, because Lord of the Rings was being shot during the time when George Lucas was moving towards digital cameras, and I have a feeling it was still shot on film, though it would have been digitized afterwards because it was one of the first films to use like color grading. Well, it went really hard on like very specific color grading, which I think came from them just scanning in the film. They never mention it in the behind the scenes though, and I've watched most of those. The big 4-hour behind the scene Lord of the Rings things. Yuasa's an interesting figure, but I don't know how I'd approach his career. I feel like it'd be very difficult to. Um, yeah, I don't know how to do it. That's my problem with Yuasa. I just don't know how. I haven't figured out a method to approach his career in a way which I think reflects it in a good way. I just feel like his career is very sketchbook and loose, and I'd probably need something that approaches it in the same way. I don't know. Yuasa has years left before he's become very popular in the last couple of years, but I feel like Yuasa's got time. He's still pretty young, so like I'm in no rush to like make a video on him yet. Yeah, the cat's back. There is no upvoting. Every time you upvote the Yuasa, it becomes another year before I do the video. There you go. That's the monkey's paw you're bringing out here, JK. Every time someone mentions Yuasa, I stop thinking about making a video on it. I like Yuasa's work to me. The cat just wants to be happy. Like don't we all? Nothing in particular. Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess we will. All right. To be fair, I guess we are talking about mind games during 4C month. We will be talking about that. I'll probably mention Yuasa in passing. It's not like I haven't mentioned them before, because Watanabe had Watanabe has a pretty good career. I guess what would you want to say? Watanabe and Yuasa seem to have a good like colleague relationship, in that like they met during probably the Animatrix period, if I remember right, and they sort of became quite friendly. And Yuasa's done cuts in most of Watanabe's work since, here and there, even directing a couple episodes of things like Space Dandy, the big sequence in Shampoo. He's definitely been around in the man's career. And that's the same for a couple of other animators too. I think Yuasa nowadays is too busy, but yeah, his episodes his team, because there's 2 episodes, one with Yuasa's protege and one with him, both in Dandy. Both of those episodes are wonderful. Yeah, Yuasa did Mind Game. We will be talking about Mind Game. I need to find that video again, because there's like a video on YouTube somewhere where it's like 2 hours of behind the scenes on Mind Games, on Mind Game even. Because that stuff isn't in like the latest releases of the film. Maybe in like the deluxe editions, but I don't have that one. Alright. Cat is happy, and she is at peace. She will stop meowing now. You good, cat? Yeah, cat is good. Shingo Natsume is Yuasa's protege? How do you make sense of that? What, the One Punch Man guy? I'm thinking about the person that works, who's now the head of Science Zero, the lady. She's definitely as closest to number 2 as he's got. Natsume doesn't even work with him anymore. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of Choi. Choi, is it? How do you say that name? In-Yong Choi? It's probably wrong, but I say all names wrong, so I'll just take that. I'll take it on the chin. I very much respect their work. I think they're a great director, and everything I've seen them do is usually just wonderful. Yeah, I hope I can find it somewhere. I mean, it was on YouTube at one point. What if I'll type it in right now. Mind Game. It's called Mind Game, the song? Mind Game. Behind the scenes. Very long. Oh wait, it's one word, isn't it? Mind Game. Aha. Yeah. Maybe I'll download that. It is. Oh my god! It is 2 hours and 46. Why is it so long? Jesus Christ. Well, I guess I'll download that later. God almighty. 2 hours and 46 minutes. Whew. I guess that's a lot of behind the scenes. Alright. I mean, Natsume's worked at Madhouse for a really long time, so working at Science Saru is probably just a jump for the person, right? I mean, Natsume is a very talented individual. Nothing but respect for Natsume, obviously, and I need to sit down and watch Sunny Boy more, but from everything I've heard about it, it sounds like it was a wonderful show. Really blew everyone out of the water, made me consider that Madhouse may not be completely dead. I had pretty much came to the conclusion back from 2019 that Madhouse had nothing left to offer the world. Maybe that's incorrect. Maybe they have a couple last little surprises before it completely shatters, but yeah. Not the same studio it once was, though, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's with Tatami, right? It's like they like novels or something along those lines. I forget if it's light novel or manga, but there's more of them, isn't there? Because the original Tatami was done at Madhouse, wasn't it? Yeah, we are talking about Yuasa, but not by my choice. It was the chat's choice. Don't take any wild ideas out of it. Although we will be covering Mind Game during the 4C month coming up in December. I'll just Google it. So Tatami Galaxy, right? Novel. Is it a novel? Apparently it's a novel. Okay. It's more than one of them as far as I understand. But the show was animated at Madhouse, wasn't it? God, this is very difficult to... Alright. Yes, Madhouse. During 2010, just before Murayama left. That's when Yuasa was given a lot of chance to do stuff. He did a couple shows at Madhouse. Thank God to Murayama for being such a based individual. He basically started the career of all the big hotshots that are like going around today. It's all Murayama. Like Murayama literally created the landscape we see today, more or less. So yeah, big ups to the boy. Yeah, it's not coming out until 2030 now. But yeah, I think that's all on Maruyama. Murayama? Maruyama, right? However I say it. He's the boy behind it all. Rather, I think it does, doesn't it? I mean, shoujo is pretty popular in its own right. Like, it does get adaptations. They're usually just maybe not distributed as much. I mean, stuff like Pretty Cure and all that, or Precure, like a lot of those don't get transferred over, like until recently. They have recently, but yeah, I mean, it happens. It really depends. It does really depend on a lot of factors of how popular something is. I feel like I don't know how many. I don't know. Again, it's not my field. It's hard for me to say like what's the most popular shoujo stuff, but there's definitely shoujo stuff coming out. Yeah, I really appreciate what Natsume's doing. Though I'm not like exactly a big One Punch Man person, but I can really respect that as a production. That's kind of like really insane that they got that together at Madhouse of all places. It's pretty wild that they got all those people together from all over the field, like Bones people and Madhouse people, all these different very talented people, and had like that consistent of a period together. And you can kind of tell, you know, they did the season 2. I never saw season 2 because I didn't care enough. But like, I've never heard like people big up season 2 in any way, just because, you know, different staff, different director, different like level. So like, what are you gonna do? I don't know what is Aka 13. What is that? Should I know what that is? Because I do not. Oh, is this just a 2017 show? Is it? Okay. Not familiar with it, I'm afraid. Who made it? Let's see. Madhouse. Oh. Wait, did he direct it? Natsume? Oh yeah, he did. Kind of? Yeah? He's been Madhouse boy. I've got to say it. Like, since One Punch Man came out, they've just kept their eyes on him and let him kind of just do stuff. Respect. Noah, in terms of a Ponyo video, I think I'm going to bring it up in the update video we're going to release in a moment. When I finish the stream, when I finally finish the stream and get some dinner. God, what time is it now? Ooh, okay, we have to end this in a second because I need to make some food up. But yeah, I was going to mention that one of my like, I guess, what would you call it? I think I need to make it up properly, but I was going to say one of my goals on, like, you know, Patreon and all that other stuff was if I get to a certain level, I was going to just commit to like making a video on every Ghibli thing that's ever been released, which I was going to call kind of the suicide button level, because that's just going to be, you know, a level of manual strikes I'm going to have to deal with is going to be proportionally insane. But I guess I could probably do it. I could probably do it if I just released them slowly. But I could probably talk about every single one of them individually, even if the videos, some of them were kind of shorter, much shorter than others. We could totally do that. I like Ponyo quite a lot. Not sure how I'd approach the video. I've Out of the newer Miyazaki stuff, I think House Moving Castle is the one that I find the most interesting to talk about production wise, because of the whole Hosoda stuff and like him taking up the roles, the sort of weirder other shit that happens during it too. In terms of like, I think if I remember right, there's a story in one of the books that like Miyazaki apparently like he just didn't want it to have any budget for like advertising to prove that his name could sell it alone. I think that's a story from the Howl's Moving Castle production, which again starts with a different director who leaves the studio. Miyazaki takes on the production. The production seems a little unstable. It's a very loose adaptation of the material. There's the whole stuff about the Iraq War on top of it, which you can kind of see in there. There's like a lot of weird factors happening in Howl's Moving Castle, and I think it would make a good, compelling story. And on top of that, I quite like Howl's Moving Castle, warts and all, even though like the film just kind of ends in like a very, very Miyazaki way, I guess. In that, like, it's like, oh, let's close all those loose ends really, really quickly out of nowhere. Don't worry about war, fucking kids. It's happy ever after. Yeah, I think well, actually also would be a fun thing to talk about is that Oshi, a man who's been very critical of Miyazaki, his favorite Miyazaki film is House Moving Castle, and I think that itself is very fascinating. Like, oh, Oshi, the guy who like literally not he will fucking rant, he will rinse on me. To be fair, they both do, right? They both do it, right? But he will, spend any opportunity he can to rinse on Miyazaki. Any period, he'll be like fucking shit talking Miyazaki, and yet he's just like, no, actually, House is my favorite of his films. And it may be something to do with like the way it deals with growing up, like the middle agedness, and there's also like growing old and other little factors about it. There's just like he had a like little conversation about what he liked about Howard with Suzuki once on radio. It's very interesting. It's a really interesting talk. I'd probably bring it into the video. And I also really like the character of Howl's Moving Castle, just like the character of the location, the character of the like dynamic of the people who live in it, and how they like push and pull. Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about it. The music score I'm really big fan of. Yeah, there's just a lot to it that I quite enjoy. And yeah, the story I imagine is going to be a lot of fun to tell. And also I once saw, I'm not going to name any names, but I remember once being shown by a friend a video on Howl's Moving Castle and watching it and being like, I was just like, I fucking hate this video so much. Oh my god, I was just like, I could make a better video than this. Jesus fucking Christ, what is this? And it got very popular. But I digress. In comparison to some of his other ones, I think Howl's Moving Castle does get some sort of response, but it's probably because it lives after like Mononoke and Spirited Away. I feel like there was a sort of change in the critical response to Howl's over like the films that came before. But I do believe it is more so a reaction to the period it came out than necessarily the film itself. Though there are certainly things I can see about the film where people would be a bit like, purist of the novel, which is a British novel, so like probably from here as well, purist of the novels are probably going to be like, this is too far away, and there might be people who are like, I don't like the ending, or there might be people who don't really like the setting. I don't know. There's a lot of factors. Who knows? You have to ask them. I haven't been to the Ghibli Museum, so I can't say I've seen any of their like exclusive stuff outside of the bootlegs. I've seen a bootleg of one of their ones with the Baba Yaga, but I've not seen any of the other shorts. No. Again, they keep that stuff pretty under wraps. If I do a video on the shorts, I don't even know how I could do a video on the shorts, unless I like the only way I could do a video on like Ghibli Museum shorts is if I go to the museum and watch all the shorts and then redraw them from memory. Which could be a very funny video, like me trying to redraw all these shorts from memory and be like explaining to people what they're like. I think that could be hilarious in its own right. But yeah, it would definitely be an experimental video. Let's say that. That would be one I'd have to do towards the end. Yeah, I try and be good with the rest. I just, I have stuff to work, so stuff to edit, so. They can try and claim my drawings. They can try. God damn it! What? How many times would I have to go? How many times would I have to go to that museum to see all those shorts? I don't know. I'd have to like break in and see all of them somehow. I don't know. I'll figure it out later. There must be a way of finding some of those shorts. All right, I need to end. I literally do need to end this so I can make some dinner because it's ridiculously late and I've forgotten to put anything on. So where are we at? Yeah. So as soon as this stream is over, I'm gonna update everyone. I will release the update video, and then. Oh god, I haven't actually done much. Oh fucking hell, I haven't actually done anything to. I'll have to like end the stream, make it public, and then quickly make some minor edits. I have to add in an end credit thing, and I'm gonna have to add in some cards. I'm not gonna have time to sub it, but I'm hoping the auto subs are good enough. It's only 7 minutes. I did not script it. Okay, so yeah, I'd have to. I don't know. Like, didn't they once release a DVD with shorts on for the Ghibli Museum stuff? I don't know. Did they do that, or am I just imagining it? There was certainly some other stuff. There's like some music videos. I think they tangentially did as well. There's like Ghibli's, is it called? There's 1 and 2 Ghibli's, which has some shorts on it. What is Kageki? Shoujo? Opera Girl. Don't know if I know that one. Is that new? Oh yeah, that's this year. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Oh. Anyway, yeah, we got to end this right now. We got to really end this, guys. Jesus Christ. Is Saloon doing something on Belle? I mean, they also have like ex-Disney someone on there, aren't they? Doing the character design, the main character. So Hosoda's really trying for that. I wouldn't be surprised if Hosoda wants to try and really open up to an international audience in like a big way. It just seems like his way. Like it seems like what he wants, which is fair. I hope it works for him. That's all I can say. Yeah, I need to go. Sorry, everyone. I need to adjust. Yeah, where are we at? Good night. Bye. No, I'm not referring to the music video with the angel. That happened much earlier on. The shorts are a byproduct of the Ghibli Museum, which was opened in like the 2000s. The short that music video is different. God, I could probably make a 10-minute video on that. Maybe, who knows? It'd be difficult. But yes, Minecraft. I don't think. Is there any sound? I don't know if there's any soundtrack. No, I don't think so. All right, gotta go, everyone. Gotta go, and I'll release the video right now. So if you want to check it, any second now, as soon as I close the stream, we'll be there. We'll be there. All right, bye bye.